We are back on the Rational Boomer podcast. Hopefully, your day is going well. It is Sunday. We're kind of pushing through the weekend. Want to thank Alona for being on the show yesterday. We had a little extra one there, too. I did a live on TikTok just because I got a wild hair. I recorded it and ran that. So you got 2 for 1 yesterday. You're only getting one today. But it's going to be worth it because we have a guest on again today, and it's Jace from Texas. And we got some shit to talk about. So, Jace, welcome back.
Hey, Mike, thanks for having me. It looks like you're going to have like all the guests you've had lately. You're going to have about, 2 or 3 shows just for emails.
Yeah. You may be right. And, that's one of the reasons I've been thinking about doing the extra shows, just to put it out there and kind of update people in the middle of the day. It seems like a lot of me, and it seems kind of arrogant, but the fuck, if they're going to listen to it, I'll put it out there. What the heck? You're now, as we said, you're down. Go ahead.
I think your show sticks out because you actually make your guests like the stars or the stars of the show along with you. You don't have somebody on here, pushing an agenda, pushing a what do you call it, a book or something like that. You have somebody that's given their opinion, and they can disagree with you. They can agree with you and disagree with you. I mean,
yeah, absolutely.
We're not in a MAGA like cult. We don't all fly our Biden's flags and say Joe's the greatest. I mean, it's a lot better than Trump. I mean, I personally like Biden as being There's one thing I'd like to talk about before we go too long. It's one of your emails was about me, I guess, talking about. They asked if I was ever MAGA. Well, I'm proud to say that I was never MAGA. I got out when I saw Trump was becoming the leader of the party. The last Republican I'll probably ever vote for was Mitt Romney. I didn't have a chance to vote for Obama. Well, I did have a chance, but I didn't, and I don't regret voting for John. I don't regret for voting for John McCain. I think he's the last decent Republican we had.
I think so.
But Mitt Romney, I regret voting for, and I voted for Hillary, and I voted for Joe twice. So, on the primary and the election, I plan on voting for him again. I'm proud to say I'm a never Trumper, and I will never be a Trumper. So, and Mitt Romney, if I could take that vote back, and we were talking about that earlier, why I would do that.
Yeah, well, let's bring that up briefly. We've got some more important stuff to talk about, but Mitt Romney is an interesting case. I talked about him on TikTok and on the podcast. Mitt Romney is this guy that's, gives us the sense that he's a reasonable Republican. But still, he was on bended knee to MAGA, just like all the rest. So I make him just as responsible for some of the shit going on. He's on his way out now. He's retiring, which is probably a good move. But he was on a show and he was talking about Donald Trump. And he said how he thought Joe Biden was doing the wrong thing, that Joe Biden should have pardoned Donald Trump right off the bat, because that would make him look like the big guy and Donald Trump like the little guy. This tells me he hasn't thought about this at all. He's the same guy that says no one's above the law and rule of law and all this shit. And then he comes out with this. You couldn't leave any faster than you're leaving now. I'm tired of the bullshit and this pontifications by Mitt Romney. You haven't done fucking anything.
And I want people to, speaking for somebody that voted for Romney back in 12, keep in mind, Romney, I believe, was ahead of Obama. And Fox, I remember watching that night it happened. And I was kind of surprised because Obama, I think that he had that Obamacare passed and he had some shit going against him. Of course, when you're an incumbent, it does it. But the Republicans, because of the polls, they were so sure he was going to win. Well, guess what? He didn't win. So don't trust the polls, as we've been saying. But if if Joe Biden was to pardon Trump, I wouldn't vote for Biden, and I think there's a lot of people that wouldn't. Nixon should have never been. I mean, that's what Trump's hoping. I mean, he's asked about that. It's like, well, can I get pardoned? Can I pardon myself? Because he knows he's breaking the law. It's ridiculous. No, you think Trump would pardon Biden? Hell no.
No, and I don't think Biden would pardon him. The reason why Gerald Ford pardoned Nixon was because he didn't want the country divided. He didn't want to cause unrest by putting a former president on trial. Well, at this stage of the game, with all that we've seen and all that's happened, I suggest there would be more divisiveness and more unrest if Donald Trump isn't convicted. there's more people that are interested in seeing justice with Donald Trump than those that want to see him get off. So for the very reason Jerry Ford pardoned Nixon, Biden should not pardon Donald Trump.
And you think that, if Trump's hoping for Biden to pardon him, well, he hadn't pardoned his own son. So I think Don's shit out of luck.
Yeah, I think Donnie's shit out of luck. There's no question about it. You and I have something in common here. Donald Trump was in Minnesota yesterday. It's quite interesting. He came out and suggested that he won Minnesota last time around in 2020, which is not true. When he approached the I don't know if you saw this, but when he approached the podium and he put his weight on it, he kind of wobbled to the left. I don't know if he lost his footing or maybe, he was out standing up for a while or whatever, but immediately he went to, who built this stage? That was a horrible contractor who built this stage. You couldn't have. It's so typical of Donald Trump. I think Donald Trump is in serious trouble with some other problems, and standing and being able to think is the least of his problems. But Donald Trump was down in Texas too. I believe he was talking to the NRA. That sounded like it was a shit show.
Yeah, of course, him and our wonderful leader, Greg Abbott, we're sitting there talking about, not talking about, the power grid or, helping out the country get better. The victims were the people and their guns, and how, having a gun is under so much, it's just they're trying to take our guns away, trying to take our ammo away. It's just the greatest hits what the Republicans do. I mean, they don't, the NRA is supporting Trump, and it's like, I mean, it's not surprising, but Greg Abbott, he acts like a law and order president, but I mean, he's getting in bed with us. I mean, I say this to all the people, like all those people that were up there supporting Trump. I mean, they're getting in bed with a soon-to-be felon. And I, like you, Mike, I think he's going to be convicted. He's not going to run the table, no matter what they say the Cohen gotcha moment was. These people, they're putting all their dice, and well, I don't know much of a gambler, but they're putting all their money, to pay. They're putting it on red, but I'm sorry, but it's going to turn blue, because I mean, the time Biden and Trump do their first debate, it's going to be a felon. So you're going to get up there as a Greg Abbott. Well, Ken Paxton, it won't matter because he should be a felon.
Yeah.
But they're going to get up there and they're going to be behind this. They're going to be behind this Trump guy that's a felon. And then Mike Johnson goes and supports, and then Greg Abbott too. They all claim to be Christians, but they're supporting a guy that it's been proven that he's cheated on his wife. She just had a baby and he's with a porn star. He questioned the porn star because he could fuck her without a rubber. Yeah, I mean, if Jesus would hang out with somebody, I think Trump would be the one he'd hang out with. If Jesus came down, I mean, yeah, I mean, it's good old Christian nationalism. And it's like, and if anything, the NRA should be, sued into oblivion for, going against background checks. But no, it's, all the shit going on in the world, people and their guns is what's important to Greg Abbott and Donald Trump.
Well, the ironic thing is that Donald Trump said while he was on the stage there that he said he was the gun owner's best friend while he was in the White House. But interestingly enough, more guns were sold during Obama's tenure than any other president. So I question that. Now when he was talking down to the NRA, which had to be just a joy fest, Donald Trump talking to the NRA. It sounded like Donald Trump's little dog and pony show went kind of as usual, off on tangents, a lot of slurring, I heard he apparently knows he's getting heat about his personal health, mental and physical. So he felt like he had to say something to prove that he was in fact a superhero. He said he was a physical specimen. He was even a better physical specimen than his opponent, Barack Obama. Now, first of all, I'd like to see Donald Trump go one-on-one in basketball with Barack Obama to prove that fucking point. Secondly, Barack Obama isn't your opponent. It is Joe Biden. And you have to question. They're talking about Joe Biden not knowing where he is or what he's talking about. Donald Trump does this every fucking day.
Yeah, and supposedly there's been a thing on TikTok, I guess, so we were talking about that Harry, I forget his last name, but he's on TikTok. He's a young guy that is a TikTok, talks on a lot, that he played videos of Trump tonight, having a Mitch McConnell moment where he just
Really?
sit there and for like, I think 30 to 45 seconds, just freezing. And just, and when you brought up the stage there, I thought he was, I don't know. Trump blames so many people. He probably blames the teleprompter. I mean, I think people were saying, "Oh, it's the teleprompter didn't come on there." But when you're a former president and you're this great orator that he says he is, you should be able to ad lib it. You shouldn't need the monitor to do that. I mean, you look at Biden. They talk about how out of touch he is, but like when there was something that fell behind him one time, that wasn't me. I mean, the guy is, yeah, he's older, but he's still sharp. Trump is just he has to rely on that teleprompter so much that if there's nothing on there, he can't do nothing. And it's ironic because that's the same thing the Republicans used to accuse Obama of doing. Oh, he's just a great speaker, but he has no experience. He can't do nothing. So it's because I remember them saying that about Obama. But yeah, I think there's like about 30 to 45 seconds that he's just sitting there, and he was obviously and evidently he was late too.
And I heard he was 2 hours late.
Up there. 2 hours late, and they were going out there to kind of talk to him, to kind of cheer him, get him, kind of quiet. And they were booing. I mean, I don't know. I mean, when you're, it's like those people leaving his speeches and stuff because he keeps rambling on. But the biggest thing about it is, in the headlines, I don't see the media covering this. I just hear, well, Biden can't do this or Biden can't do that. And it's getting to a point, it's like when you see those returns come from Indiana and those red states where Nikki Haley is getting up to 20-25% of the Republican vote, you almost expect to see a headline, well, how is this bad for Biden?
Yeah.
I mean, it's just fucking ridiculous because it's like the New York Times, especially, they're just saying, well, they were so against Trump before that they got to make it up now. I mean, I don't think the media realizes, and I don't think he'll win. But if Trump wins, these are the people that he's gonna put in jail.
Well, I take a look at the media as kind of like bookies. They've got odds, and then when the odds get too much one way, they need to balance it. I've said that about maybe a boxing promoter. You could have Pauly Shore fighting Mike Tyson, and they'd say, yeah, that Pauly Shore, he's pretty wiry. He hasn't won a match, but he can sneak up on it. It's just a matter of trying to set the stage for a big title fight. And I honestly believe, based on what happened in 2020 and what's happened since 2020, it's going to be a fucking slaughter.
I agree.
It's not even going to be fucking close.
But the media likes to always pull up these polls about, these polls. I don't, and I was watching MSNBC and Joe Scarborough, and they were talking, and Joe has his moments, and he said something about, well, people aren't paying attention now. Yeah, it's right. That's why, if these polls are so great and the Trump campaign is so confident, why did they agree to do a debate? They know they're in trouble.
Right.
But the media is in bed with them, and the media always talks about these polls. They don't talk about how Trump's losing 20-25% in these red states.
No.
I mean, Texas, that won't happen in. But I mean, it's like, and it's not necessarily because Nikki Haley is the one they love. They're just people that are never Trumpers or aren't going to vote. And the thing about it is that's got to also be good for Biden, because if those people don't vote, they won't necessarily vote for Biden, but they won't vote down ballot either. Right. So that'll help the House. And now and I've seen stories here and there. Now they're saying the Senate, as you've been saying all along, Mike, and I had my doubts, that the Senate is still I mean, they can still hold it. I mean, it's,
they can,
but it's just like, goddamn, talk about how Trump's losing this, and it's like, these states, but it's all about the polls. And I mean, I've never seen so many goddamn polls in my life. I mean, it's like every day, this poll, and this poll, and this poll. I mean, it's like, son of a bitch. I mean, and 20 of, and 2 of them be for Biden, 2 of them be for Trump. I mean, it's way too early, by the way, but I mean, it's like you said, they're Don Kinging it. They're trying to get the hype the fight up. So that's what they're doing. I think you're right, and it's going to be like the Romney thing in 12, that they just thought that Romney was going to wipe the floor with Obama, and it turned out no. And I remember Fox just being flabbergasted, and I think it's going to happen again, because I think a lot of Republicans know it, but the attention span with these, all these things, abortion's been on the bill, been on the ballot. I mean, they've won in Ohio, they've won in all these other states, these red states that Trump supposedly owns.
I've asked this question before, and I'll ask it again. If Donald Trump is leading Joe Biden in the polls, why is he only fundraising half as much? That makes no sense. That makes no mathematical sense. If he's equal with or above Biden, he should be equal with Joe Biden in fundraising, but he's not even close. He's half as much. That's why I'm saying the polls don't tell us much. The fundraising tells us a lot, because people have to put in their money to their preferred candidate. And if that isn't the essence of showing support, I don't know what the fuck is.
Yeah, the polls don't do it, but the voting does, and the exit polls do when they vote. Because that's actual, in those primaries and those special elections. And Trump hasn't won one since 16. I mean, he's
right.
I mean, I think it's I don't know. I mean, I think, they talked about the red wave. They talked about all this bullshit, and it's just, I mean, it's like deja vu. It's like Groundhog Day all over again. It's like just 2022, like, the midterms. And I'll be honest with you, I thought they were going to get. I thought with, I followed that stuff, and it's, and I look at it now, and it's not so much, I'm afraid, it's more of just aggravation, because it's like they're causing a lot of people that, there's people that don't pay attention, and they will probably vote for Trump because they see this poll. I mean, and I don't think they know half of it because they're not educated, and that,
Right.
That's mostly of Trump's bases, even the ones that are uneducated, as he claims to love.
Well, he's talking, one of the things, we know he's not showing well when he does these speeches, like to the NRA in Texas and to whoever he was talking to in Minnesota. He's not coming off very well. The people who see it can see that he's slipping very quickly. But now we have this debate thing. Like you said, Donald Trump said, I'll debate Joe Biden. Now, the only reason he's wants to debate Joe Biden is because he's in trouble. He knows he's fucking losing. And, he offered it up. I think he thought that Joe Biden would blow him off or turn him down, and then he could say, "Oh, you scared of me." But then Joe Biden says, "Sure, I'll do it. I'll do it 2 times." And Joe Biden did the smart thing. He came up with some rules: time limit, no audience, cut off the mics when they're not talking. These are all things work against Donald Trump's typical strategy. But the brilliant thing that Joe Biden did is when he said, "I'll accept the challenge," he teased him. He said, "I heard you got Wednesdays off." And that pissed off Donald Trump. So the moment he heard that, literally within hours, he accepted it. And he didn't accept it before thinking about it. It was completely emotional, completely reactionary. And he did it because he was mad and he wanted to show Joe Biden. But he fucked up because he agreed to those terms that he should never have agreed to. He just jumped in headlong. And now after the fact, his people are going, wait a minute. Maybe we shouldn't have done that. And this is where Donald Trump makes his mistakes. He's emotional. He's like a little child. If I call him a poopy butt, he's going to call me a poopy butt just like that. And it's the same thing with this debate thing. And Joe played him, fucking played him.
Well, both of us know that those debates aren't going to happen, and it ain't going to be because of Biden. There is
Right.
no freaking way Trump's going to show up, because I'm hoping, especially if he's got those convictions, there's no way.
No.
Because a lot of the funding is going to go away. A lot of the, all those promises that he did when he supposedly outraised Obama and Clinton and Biden in one night. Was that ever certified? I haven't heard anything about that.
Nope, it was not.
But he's not going to do it. But I do think, I don't think he's going to do that. But I'm hoping, I'm praying, And I think George Conway was like kind of daring him on this. I hope he does try to testify next week. You know,
Well, yeah,
I don't think we're going to get a debate, but I would love to see him testify because he'll get torn a new one.
well, yeah, and it's interesting that you bring up that testimony that he says he's going to give in his criminal trial. Now, under normal circumstances, with a normal human being, they would never testify. If it was left up solely to the lawyers, he would never testify. It's not in his best interest to testify. However, we know the judges or the lawyers don't make the final decisions. Donald Trump dictates what they're going to do, even if it's the most ridiculous thing in the world. And if Donald Trump thinks he's losing or even has a sense of what he's losing, it reminds me of something he once said: only I can fix it.
Yep.
And I think he truly believes that he's so oratorily gifted that he can sit up there, handle any prosecutor, and change the jury's entire minds. He's been known for saying, I'll testify and then not testify because the lawyers have suggested otherwise. But I know he's not happy with his lawyers now. It's not going well, even though he's the one directing them, but he's got to blame somebody.
Mm-hmm.
So he could just say, fuck it, I'm going to do it. I'll show you motherfuckers how to win this goddamn thing. And I hope he does.
Yeah, the thing about it is I know a lot of people on TV were asking why the prosecutors put Cohen on last. I think they put him on there because if their best chance to get him pissed off and testify is Cohen. Because Cohen's, I know a lot of people don't like Cohen. They talk shit about him. The guy did his time.
Yeah.
I think he's done a lot. I listened to him on there. I think he could have kept his mouth shut. I don't during this happening, but I mean, it's like you said, he's auditioning for a job, so he's going to be out there and talking. And then again, he's not on trial. Trump's on trial. They wanted to gag him, and then when the judge asked him to keep it down, he did.
Yeah.
And I think that if there's one person that could get Trump to testify, it's Cohen. He just and I think that this defense is really fucking up because they should have gotten to the point right away. Because I mean, they're saying that Cohen lied to a point, but you have Hope Hicks and that Pecker guy, Pecker, that still makes me laugh. They're the ones that verified what Cohen's been saying. So it's like, yeah, Cohen could be lying, but you got two other people that have no reason to lie are backing him up.
Well, that's one of the things that bothered me is that Michael Cohen went up the first day under cross-examination. He did a really good job. Everybody said that. But in the second day, they caught him lying on the stand and all that stuff. And I mean, that's who he is. The fact that they identified Michael Cohen as a liar, we knew that going in. We knew that. And like you said, they corroborated everything he said. That's why they put him up at all. But then you watch the media, and I got people coming to me all the time going, oh my God, Michael Cohen ruined it. Donald Trump's going to win. And I get tired of this fatalistic bullshit. First of all, whatever they found out that Michael Cohen lied about had nothing to do with the basis of the fucking charge. They're just trying to discredit him and say he's a liar. But again, with all this corroboration, who cares? Who fucking cares? He didn't do anything to damage the case. They're going to have redirect tomorrow, and they're going to clean up a bunch of shit there and slam some things home to the defense, and that may be the time that gets Donald Trump wired up enough to say, I'm going to fucking testify.
So when the defense finishes up tomorrow, they said probably a couple more hours, and the offense, the prosecution talks. Does the defense have another option, or is that just it after the prosecution?
Well, on Monday, if the defense isn't done with Michael Cohen, they'll finish up with him. Then the prosecution will have a redirect, kind of winding things up with that particular witness. At that point, that's it. And then at that point, what we understand is the prosecution will rest its case, and then it'll be on the defense. The question is, will they call witnesses or will they not call witnesses? Because it's conceivable they won't call a witness. Now, back last week, somebody was asking them about witnesses they were going to call, and they said, well, we may have one, and they may be able to do it Monday, but we're not sure we have one. That sounds to me like Donald Trump because, I mean, think about it. Who else could they put up there to testify who hasn't already been testifying for the prosecution? These are the people in the little circle. Unless they got Weisselberg to come up and lie, but I doubt that's going to fucking happen. So I think they're probably still fighting back and forth as to whether or not to put Donald Trump on the stand.
Yeah, and I heard somebody talk about that, saying that, they didn't really think that that whole gotcha point was Michael Cohen so much lying. It's just that that was how many years ago?
Yeah.
I mean, I mean, sometimes, maybe it wasn't, he was trying to hide something and lie. It could have been, I don't remember what happened 7 years ago. I could have, well, it's that whole gotcha moment that they think they got. It's that whole Perry Mason thing. And I think the gotcha moment was Michael Cohen talking about the people that those reporters that he would do fluff pieces on Trump, and one of them was Maggie Haberman, which is not a big surprise.
No.
The other one was Katie Tur, who I really liked, and because Trump went after her like big time. But leave it up to Nancy Pelosi to call her out to her face,
right?
For, protecting Trump, and it's just like I'm just flabbergasted that the media, what Trump says he's going to do to them, that that they're still, MSNBC is supposed to be this liberal haven, but you still have these people on that channel that are still, doing fluff pieces and defending Trump.
Well, what you have to understand about media people, they're very similar to politicians. They are whores, yep. Essentially. And when I say that, what I mean is that they'll do anything that's in their best interest. I mean, look at Chris Cuomo. He was on MSNBC. He was a reasonable guy. Now he's off on some other fucking channel. I can't even watch the dipshit over and above his own sexual abuse proclivities. These people are just prostitutes, whether they be on MSNBC or CBS or any of this stuff. Now, I'm not saying they're all bad because there are some I like. Most of the ones I really like, though, are the expert people like Andrew Weissman or Glenn Kirshner or some of those people. Most of the talking heads are a little suspect. They have their moments and they come up with shit I cannot believe. I mean, let's be honest. There's a woman on MSNBC. She fills in sometimes, and she's on weekends. She's actually pretty good. She filled in for who did she fill in for? The lady in the middle of the day. But she filled in. Her name is Alicia Menendez. She's Bob Menendez's kid. How is she doing that job with her dad and mom on a criminal trial for fucking bribery? Now, I'm not going to fault her for what her dad did, but that's just a weird, incestuous type of thing, You got people trying to give you the news, and their own people are part of the biggest news stories.
But it's that that corrupt Biden crime family and administration that's going slowly after Republicans and his DOJ.
Right.
It's just such a Republican witch hunt that no, there's two Democrats, and one in the House, one in the Senate. One of them's in my area. And hats off to you, Mike, for knowing how to spell Cuellar. I mean, how to pronounce Cuellar. I heard that last night. That was pretty good. Because it's this, who is this cellular guy? Yeah, so it's just another hole in the Republican story about how I mean, of course, if it's just Trump projecting that them going after people is pretty much what Trump did, but Biden's not doing that. He's let people do their job. That's why you have. I do think it's kind of sad though that we're not hearing more about Bob Mendez and everything. But as I've seen something, and I want to bring this up to you, Mike, that I saw Alito and. Is it Mendez or Melendez? What is that his name?
Menendez.
Menendez and Alito. Well, hell, man, I'm not a married man, but I saw both of them blaming their wives, and not being a married man, I know that ain't a smart decision.
If I was in that situation and I blame my wife, I would wake up with a pillow over my face. No fucking question about it.
You wouldn't
And I
wake up.
and I would deserve it. I would deserve it. Now it's just it's I mean, this is the integrity we're dealing with members of Congress, with members of the
Yeah.
Supreme Court. I mean, that whole Alito thing with this upside down flag. Oh, I had nothing to do with it. Motherfucker, it was in your yard. Yes, you do have something to do with it. It's absolutely ridiculous
Oh yeah.
that I'm annoyed by the arrogance of these people. Yeah, that happened, but no biggie. You can't do anything to me. That's one thing that has to change. For the longest time, members of Congress, members of the Supreme Court, they've been getting away with a lot of things. I mean, take a look at Donald Trump. These fraud cases for his taxes and um, for his real estate business, it didn't just start happening 5, 10 years ago. This has been going on for 50 years and they've been getting away with it. It wasn't until they came to the limelight and somebody called them out on it. These people in Congress, these people in the Supreme Court, these wealthy people around the country have been getting away with shit and not having to pay a price. Shit that you and I would pay heavily for, but they've been getting away with it for decades and it's fucking tiring.
Yeah, it was something that's never made sense to me is how we have term limits for a president, but we don't have term limits for Congress.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of it's always, it seems like it's always a bipartisan, deal until it gains momentum. I mean, there's no way Congress has got to pass that. It ain't gonna. I mean, they're not gonna do that, but there should be, and there should be some kind of code of ethics on the Supreme Court. I don't think that there should be lifetime. I don't think it should be lifetime appointments, because the argument in the past is, well, if it's lifetime, they don't have to worry about, if they make a just decision that's not popular. No, it's a lifetime decision that says you can't touch me, motherfucker, and I'm going to do what I want to do, and that's exactly what they're doing.
Well, that's
I mean,
right. That's
you
right.
had three of them.
The thing about it is the reason they were given these lifetime positions so they wouldn't be put in a political position, which is exactly what they're fucking doing now. They're still political, not because they're worried about getting elected, but because they're worried about collecting that cash under the table. They are political. So the reason we gave them lifetime appointments isn't working anymore. So now it's time to change that shit up.
Yeah, and there's got to be something too that where there can be something passed to where they can go back on their testimony, and their testimony means something. God knows they went after Michael Cohen for lying, but didn't we have like three of them? The three that Trump appointed, didn't they all say Roe versus Wade was a set of law? They all said that, but they knew goddamn well that nothing would happen to them once they get up there. Well, I think that and it's like you said, if Trump's done anything, he's proven that that there's no teeth. And as much as Jim Jordan wants to sit there and throw a fit and try to get these records, he ain't got no fucking power to do that.
No.
But it's sad though, the Senate should have, and in Congress should have the power to go after these Supreme Court justices, not so much for political things, but if they lie. If you lie and you're pretty much testifying in front of the Senate, you should be investigated. I'm
Well,
sorry.
and I think you can, but we've got to have the majority in the House and the Senate in order to do it. Now, that said, something that needs to be looked at after the election when the Republicans no longer have the power. They may be able to slip by things with ethics codes in the Supreme Court and even through Congress. But when they break an actual law, and if no one's above the law, the DOJ should be able to come in, Supreme Court justice or not, and say, hey, you fucking stole money. You took bribery. That is a federal law. You need to be indicted and prosecuted. In the past, they would never do that because of how it would make things look. But that may be the way they get the likes of Alito and Clarence Thomas ultimately. But that can't happen till after the election.
And it's funny too how this immunity thing that Trump has, we all know that the court's going to send it back to down, kick it back down. But boy, they're sure taking their sweet ass time, aren't they? Because I mean, it's so corrupt. It's so obvious. I mean, it didn't take them very long to, try to gut the voting acts or try to cut Roe versus Wade or cut, affirmative action. But just when you do that, I mean, you're supposed to have three different branches of the government, but it's just like, and the Supreme Court's supposed to be above it all. But I mean, it's a laughing stock. I mean, I mean, they're protecting Trump so much that I mean, anybody can see it. Anybody that ain't got blinders on, and they should be held accountable for that. They should be held accountable for being part of an insurrection. And when you're his Jenny Thomas was there and she was involved in it. I mean, how he doesn't get? I mean, it's just amazing. Nobody's above the law, but when it comes to the Supreme Court, I mean, it's when they get and we need to hold their feet to the fire. If when they win the House and Senate, we need to hold their feet to the fire. I think you said something. I think that Biden will probably feel enabled, emboldened, I guess, or whatever, that he can make a legacy out of this. That they'll probably get a lot of progressive stuff done because he'll be a lame duck.
Right.
And I mean, he's got to do that in the first couple of years because you don't know what's going to happen in the midterms.
Right.
So you get those Senate and House, you need to get that shit done before 2 years because you can you never know in 2 years.
Well, if you do enough good stuff in the first 2 years, you don't have to worry about the midterms. The midterms will go pretty well because it'll be so dramatically different than what the Republican.
2022, they lost the House, so people are pretty stupid.
Yeah, but they barely lost the House. I mean, it was supposed to be a big win, and they didn't even get close. To be perfectly honest with you, I think the Supreme Court, if they help Donald Trump delay those cases till after the election, they aren't doing Donald Trump any good. Because let's be honest, if he gets 20 felony charges in this Manhattan case, what difference is it going to make if he gets 20 more in another place and 20 more in another place? I think I don't know who said it. Was it Eric? Maybe somebody? No, it was Tony, who said it was good to have this case first because it brought out all the character issues. It put a lot of stuff into the news to make Donald Trump out to be who he was. When this case is done, if he has 10, 20, or 34 felony charges, there ain't much more you can do. Everything else is just kind of extra. My point is once you get past the election, he doesn't win the election. Now he's got 3 cases that he delayed because he thought it was going to do him good. But what really happens after the election when he doesn't win? He is far more vulnerable then than he is now. So let him fucking have it. Bury him with the Manhattan District. Let him wait on the other shit and spend the rest of his life in court and or jail.
Yeah, I just think it's a shame that we're not able to see this like broadcast. I just, I mean, it's like I mean, a lot of the people thought that OJ was innocent until the trial. Yeah, the jury, that's a long time ago, but I mean, the stuff that came out of that, I mean, but then again, you live in a time when people don't believe what they see because,
right.
Like Trump said, believe me, don't believe what you see. So maybe it wouldn't do, but yeah, I mean, all that matters is those 12 on that jury. And him running the table. And you're right. This is the case they should have tried. But then again, the media, this is the weakest case. This is the weakest case. I go, he's up for fucking felonies, man. I don't know anything weak about that. If I was up for a felony, I wouldn't think it was very fucking weak. But and when Trump's out there saying, "Oh, it's a witch hunt," or "We did nothing wrong," I don't know who he's trying to convince, the media or himself. It's like he hears himself talk. He's trying to like talk himself down because I think at one time he knew he lost 2020. But my dad told me something a long time ago. One of the few lessons he did teach me is that you tell yourself a lie long enough, you start believing it. And I think he's fucking believes that he's the orange Jesus and that, his shit don't stink and that he probably thinks he didn't fuck Stormy Daniels. I mean, it's like, who would want to admit that she fucked Donald Trump? I mean, not me. 130,000 would take a lot more than that.
Yeah.
And Michael Cohen did this all the graciousness of his heart? No, he's an ass, and we all know that.
Yeah, it's just totally out of character for him to do something like that. It's kind of like them trying to say, "Oh, Sleepy Joe can't stay awake, but he's on cocaine." Sorry,
Yeah,
pal, if you know anything about cocaine, that's contradictory. And it's like telling trying to make out Michael Cohen to be a selfish asshole liar, and then say out of the goodness of his heart he paid off Donald Trump's payoff without even telling him because he's a great guy. Makes no fucking sense. That's a tough thing to sell, and I don't believe they're selling it. You know, one of the things I've said about this court case that we don't see because we don't watch the trial, Donald Trump's not a great guy. These lawyers are not great people. And and these lawyers have been admonished by the judge over and over again, telling them they've lost credibility in this court and they fucked up. The judge is having to make objections because the defense didn't know when to do it. You got to remember the jury's sitting right there, right across from him, looking at him, hearing him, watching him. I don't think they like any of these people too well. You can't because they're not likable folks. And that does come into play when the verdict comes in.
Yep, because I've been on a jury before, and it was a federal jury, and juries they watch everything. They watch the mannerisms, and I mean, I remember when I was on the case that the prosecution had their shit together, and it's like you see how people act, and then Trump was evidently cussing, and the judge had to tell him to keep quiet.
Right.
I mean, if that doesn't tell you that, I mean, and I saw somebody was saying that. May have been Joyce Vance or somebody that somebody has the experience in court. Is like, yeah, you could be MAGA, you could be the biggest MAGA in the town, but once you get on that jury and you're around your peers, because it is your peers, your fellow Americans,
right,
and you're judging that guy, it humanizes them to where he's no better than me. And even if the biggest Donald Trump fan in the world, the biggest Joe Biden fan in the world, I mean, if they're on there, they see them as a human being, and yeah, they can hold out, for whatever, but 9 times out of 10, it humanizes them to see, well, hell, this guy's no different than me, and it humanizes them to where, hey, this guy did something wrong, and there's been cases before where people have been MAGA and they have convicted him on, or found against him on certain cases.
Yeah, absolutely.
Was the Eugene Carroll? That there was a MAGA person on there or something. I mean, I don't think they realize that he's not on that stage where he's making jokes or cutting down Joe Biden. I mean, this is real fucking life, man. This is, and those people got to think about it too. I mean, love him or hate him, but this is Donald Trump's life. I mean, it's in your hands. And if he did something wrong, he needs to be held accountable. And I do believe that will prevail in this because, I mean, if there's one place that hates Donald Trump enough, it's New York.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. All right. We're talking to Jace from Texas on the Rational Boomer podcast. We are going to take a quick break and we will be right back. We're back on the Rational Boomer podcast. Jace from Texas is with us on the show today. We're talking about a lot of things. And since we're talking about people who don't know where they are or what is going on, let's talk about Rudy Giuliani. We heard the story that last night he was in West Palm Beach celebrating his upcoming 80th birthday. I don't know if he was sweating tar or his soul out of his skin or not. But he was bragging on stage about the people in Arizona, the attorney general trying to serve him with an indictment, but he's been successful at hiding from them. So anyway, he says, well, he said something like, well, they got to do it by tomorrow or it'll be too late. And I don't know that that's how that works, but he's all cocky and shit. He walks off the stage and boom, there's 2 representatives from the attorney general in Arizona served that motherfucker with an indictment. These motherfuckers can't win for losing.
It's amazing with Giuliani that he was so revered at one time, and I don't know. I read Joe Biden's book, and he talks about how he was towards Obama. He's always been a prick. he's always, he's not the kind of guy that he's that guy that, he's like the face of something.
Right.
I mean, that stuff in 9/11, he was a good spokesman, but he wasn't the one who was doing all the work. Like, he had to take credit for America's mayor or whatever. But I mean, you know what kind of creep he is if you ever saw that Borat movie when he was
I
trying to
did.
pretty much rape, allegedly, that actress or whatever. I mean, it was sick. And he was there, and evidently when they served him, he was getting all cocky, and they supposedly the women were like yelling at the process servers. But if it was this weekend or like Monday, they have to do it. There could be some kind of statute of limitations. Who knows? He's a lawyer, so he should know. I guess that AG that was serving those papers was on his shit. They know where he's at, and they know that he's desperate. He's in bankruptcy court. How bad is your life when your biggest asset is money somebody else owes you? I mean, that money that Donald Trump supposedly owes him is his biggest asset, and that's in the court filings, I think.
What's our
And
what
I know a little bit about bankruptcy. That is one of the I mean, I know somebody's gone through it. That is one of the strictest, and you don't fuck with that bankruptcy shit. You do anything there, they'll lock your ass up in prison.
right,
I
right.
mean, that's fraud, and I think and plus it's just more of his problems is going to happen.
Well, the interesting thing is when your biggest asset is money that somebody owes you, that's crazy enough. But when that somebody's Donald Trump, it means it's nothing because you ain't never
Yeah,
getting that money.
no. And it's funny, people ask me why I dislike Donald Trump, and like we talked earlier, I was a never Trumper. You just have to read his history of how he does stuff. He doesn't pay his contractors. He doesn't. There's like people on Food Network, some chefs. I think it's Jeffrey something, I don't know, but he hates Donald Trump because Donald Trump never pays his bills. And I think there was something last week in New Jersey that they said, no, you got to pay some stuff up before you have these rallies because he hasn't played the rallies.
Right.
And look what he's doing now to the GOP. And I mean, it's like he's sent Giuliani, he got all that legal advice from him, and he's sitting on down the river. Yeah, he ain't getting that shit. But if everybody ever ask you, oh, Trump's for the working man. Man, Trump has screwed the working man more than anybody. I mean, not paying his bills, knowing to go through court to do all that stuff. I mean, he's a grifter. I mean, he's just grifting, and he gets it all on credit and doesn't pay his bills.
Yeah. I mean, there was a time when Donald Trump didn't pay his bills because he was a prick. And now it's because he just virtually doesn't have any money. He's cutting back on rallies and doing stuff like this. He's showing up at these events because he doesn't have to pay for them. Like the event he showed up with the NRA, like the event he showed up in Minnesota. He's not paying for that, so that's a free platform for him to speak. And so he's in trouble financially. People think he got away with something with these two lawsuits because he's on appeal, but he still had to come out of his pocket with 275 million out of his pocket, or at least lock the money up so it's not available to him. And he's never going to get it back because he's not going to win the appeal. While it hasn't gotten to the state or Eugene Carroll as yet, it's still out of his pocket, and that fucking hurts him.
Yeah, there was, speaking of money and stuff, I think I was listening to Eric on TikTok, and he was talking about how I guess his governor, or not governor, but one of his elected officials there was like went there to support Trump, as did our illustrious GOP House
Right.
leader and those other ones. I mean, they work for us, and how did they get there? Are they we pay them, we pay their salary. Why are they not doing their job? Why are they? I mean, and I probably those did they pay out of pocket to fly there
I
to
doubt
see
it.
that? I mean, hell, our government, my attorney general here in Texas, Paxton. I mean, he went there before because he was one of the first ones to show up because I guess of course Don was upset that nobody was supporting him. But it's like it's ridiculous. I mean, it's like they should be doing their job, and the more and more I see it, I mean, next time that Mike Johnson, Marty Taylor Greene wants to hang Mike Johnson out to dry. Yeah, I know it keeps the House going, but I don't think the Democrats should support it. Let him go. Because he has been nothing, if anything, more obnoxious since he was saved, going
Yeah.
against Democrats and stuff like that. And I mean, I don't think, I mean, yeah, it's going to be chaotic in the House, but it is. But I don't think Democrats need to do him any favors, especially when, he's going to, he's going to New York or to when he should be in Washington. They shouldn't be there, supporting Trump. They should be doing their damn job.
Well, for the Speaker of the House, someone who claims to be highly religious, believes in the Bible, to show up in New York, to stand behind a guy who's been found liable of assaulting women, sexually assaulting women, for defrauding the U.S. government, for Speaker of the House to show up there like Mike Johnson, that is absolutely shameful. That is a stink that will hang with him for the rest of his life. Because when this is all said and done and Donald Trump is made to pay the price, he's going to have to try to walk that back, and he won't be able to do it. And I don't understand why they don't grasp that. They can't see how this is going to end and that it's
Did
going
you
to end
notice?
badly.
Did you notice that Lauren Boebert was there? And these couple of guys, they're the ones at the Trump rallies that ask the people these questions. They brought her a playbill, I guess, of Beetlejuice to her to sign.
Right.
And that was pretty funny. And then she was talking, and I noticed all the other Republicans just walked off. They just left her talking, like, I don't listen to that shit no more.
Well, they know she's done after January. She's not going to win her race. She's down there backing up Donald Trump while her own son is in court and being admonished by the judge because he has yet to get an attorney.
Wow.
And they said, well, we'll get you a free attorney. He goes, oh, no, not that. It's just they're so expensive. What the fuck is Lauren Boebert doing? This family first party is leaving her kid twisting in the wind. Now, I don't mind that he's twisting in the wind because he's a legitimate criminal. He's got multiple charges against him, and he should probably do some time because he's obviously out of control. But this is who Lauren Boebert is. She'll let her kids twist in the wind just to pay homage to this overweight, dirty diapered, orange faced piece of shit. That tells you something about her decision skills.
Yeah, and I think there may be becoming a breakup with Donald Trump and Marjorie Taylor Greene, because you notice all the people that went out there, she wasn't one of them.
It's true.
And she wasn't there, and Mike Johnson was, and she hates Mike Johnson. Well, I saw something also that her husband or boyfriend, whatever it is, I guess he's on some right wing pro Trump network, but he announced tonight, I believe, that he's quitting. He's not going to be there anymore.
Really?
And yeah, I saw it on TikTok, to where I think it was maybe Midas Touch said it, that he announces, and there's all this speculation. I believe it was him. Yeah, but she wasn't invited. She may, it's pretty bad when Boebert is less crazy than the eyelash thrower, like the other night. What happened in
The bleach blonde, bad built, butch body. That was the term. I love that.
Yeah, did you see they were up there? Did you see Ruskin? There's a part of him where he's just like watching like a tennis match, and he's just going back and forth, just like that cracked me up so much. I mean, it's like he's a smart man. He knows when to keep his mouth shut. Just let the women fight.
Well, that's the thing I said, is that Marjorie Taylor Greene is obviously not a smart woman, because um, while Crockett is an attractive young woman, a smart young woman, an accomplished young woman, a lawyer.
And she's from Texas.
And she's from Texas. And like I said in
We
a
got
previous
one.
podcast, she got a little street in her too.
Oh,
And
yeah.
you don't want to fuck with her. I think of all the people she could fuck with in the House of Representatives, I think Crockett is probably the least best choice. And we had a little tussle going on there, and it just shows how what we've lowered our Congress to. There was once a point of mandatory decorum in the House of Representatives. Now we got Marjorie Taylor Greene calling Lauren Boebert a little bitch. We've got Democrats making jokes and making fun of the Republicans. We've got two women looking like they're on Real Housewives of the fucking Potomac. It's just dwindled to no credibility at all. And I'm not calling out the Democrats for fighting back. I'm glad they are. I'm not saying Crockett did anything wrong. She did exactly the right thing because you've got to fight fire with fire sometimes.
Yeah, and AOC, I think, was it AOC? I think said something about that you're just doing this to actually fundraise off of, and there should be some kind of investigation into that.
Right.
Because didn't Marjorie Taylor Greene, didn't she try when she first got in there, didn't she try to like intimidate somebody? I mean, she's a bully.
Yeah.
I mean, I think she may get reelected because her her district is so MAGA and so gerrymandered to where
Right.
it'll vote for her. She's safe. She can talk shit like that. But yeah, but her being on a committee, I mean, you see that in like England where they yell at each other, and I remember seeing that back in the day and just thinking, man, that's just trashy. You know how they do in those House of Commons or whatever, and they sit there and they just yell at each other, oh, and all that. I mean, that's. I mean, there should be. And what's funny about Marjorie Taylor Greene is when Kevin McCarthy put her in charge that one time, and she was asking for for quietness and is it decorum? I guess she asked for like on the floor, and they just all laughed at her. I mean, it's she. I mean, she's
Well,
what's wrong because you have Hannity sitting there watching that last night, and they want that they don't want government to work. They want the dysfunction. That's exactly what MAGA wants. The MAGA and the
right.
Republicans want.
Right. Well, the thing about Marjorie Taylor Greene, you're right. She probably will get reelected because she's in a district a bunch of fucked up Trump-fucks.
Yep.
But if the Democrats are in power in the House of Representatives, you're going to see her pretty well marginalized. You may not see her on many committees. And if she does something wrong, there's going to be an easier time kicking her ass out. And eventually that could happen. We even saw Matt Gaetz at the trial, and Matt Gaetz did something I had to laugh about. Um, he said, he quoted Mr.
Proud
President
Boys.
standing back and standing by like he's some tough guy. That motherfucker's never been in a fight in his life. He looks like somebody I would have beat up in school just because of the way he looks. And I wasn't a bully. But this guy is a piece of shit. And he's trying to save his life because I think after the election, he's got some big problems too.
Yeah, I think there was some report going out that the GOP or some kind of oversight committee have that they've asked for his records or something like that. I
Right.
think it was. There's so many news sources nowadays, you don't know what's real or what. But yeah, and yeah, he's gonna lynch on the Trump because he wants to. He knows he's in trouble because he's pissed off one Kevin McCarthy, and Kevin McCarthy's like he's really going against Matt Gaetz. He's actually help fund that guy, I guess, who's going to primary him or run against him or something like that.
Yeah.
So I mean, it just gets me about these Republicans. I don't understand like a Kevin McCarthy. They just it's like all these people fight, and Trump didn't help save Kevin McCarthy. Who knows if he could? But Kevin McCarthy still defends Trump. I mean, it's like, don't you guys have any pride? I mean, obviously not.
Well,
I mean, Mike,
the thing about it is after the election is over and Donald Trump is a non-factor anymore because he continues to lose, and the Republicans will have to walk away from him. There's going to be a bunch of people with just a bunch of fucking vomit on the front of their shirts that they're
yep.
never going to be able to get off, and I don't understand how they don't see that. I can see it. They're not going to win this. They can't game the system in order for Donald Trump to win the presidency. So you have to understand that this is all going to end. I mean, it's like they're fighting for their lives and they think they have a chance, but they don't.
I think they believe if they cause the most ruckus, and they cause the all that shit going on, it'll happen. I mean, that just the all the craziness going on and stuff. I mean, just it's just like a bunch of monkeys throwing shit at each other, and so they think they're doing something. They're just causing chaos. Hey, I don't. There's one thing I just thought of that I don't know if talking about the 2020 election. Evidently, there was a plan, I guess, with Judge Alito to like do something to keep the votes from being counted, or just to stop the election from processing or something like that. I'm not sure I read it, but I don't know if you've heard anything about this, but they said they weren't counting on Nancy Pelosi, I guess, to call the House closely, or they were trying to delay it that way. But
I hadn't heard that, but I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, Alito is
yeah, I
a
think the
piece of
shit's
shit.
coming out about Alito now that stuff happened. I think I saw it on Threads and stuff, but they said that they weren't that Nancy Pelosi called the concession. I guess they figured the January 6th would stop the count or something like that. That they couldn't do it, but she called it so quickly that they didn't have time to do. There's so much shit that they did the background, and I see these people still freaking out about this, and it's like you said, Mike. It's like they had their best chance when Trump was in power. I mean,
Right.
they have, they've done, and honestly, and a lot of the judges that actually stopped Trump were Trump appointed judges, so the system did hold.
Right. Right.
But but
But
I
don't,
get so sick of these people in the media, people like that. I can't even watch Bill Maher anymore because he
no.
was sitting there last night talking about how or Friday night how talking about how Biden can't debate Trump. It's like they still act like Trump's the Trump from 2016. He's not. And it's like they always underestimate Biden. And it's like I don't underestimate Biden. But it's just I get so sick of these, like what you're saying about these doom and gloom Democrats or whatever. It's like they're not taking into account what's going on. And it goes to people like James Carville. That goes to people like who's the guy that Axelrod.
Yeah.
It's like I see something by them now, and I just can't I just can't even respect them anymore because they're just even Rick Wilson was saying that Trump was going to win in 2020. I mean, it's like
Yeah.
you've got to just get Debbie Downer and stand up. I mean, Trump has done nothing to better himself.
Well, that's the thing was when you see these people on TV, they say things to stir shit up, whether it's right or wrong, and they understand that when it all comes down to it, people will forget what they predicted,
Yep.
um, and then they'll continue to do what they do. But there's only two kinds of people who believe that Donald Trump was going to win in 2020 or in 2024. They're either the media who's specifically trying to lie to you
Yep.
to cause some kind of title fight, or they're those people that are absolutely reactionary and all about emotions. I mean, the one thing I get from comments all the time is fear. People are constantly asking me to talk them off the ledge, and I'll do it if I can. But I'm trying to understand how you can live your life in fear of everything. You fear, and this is exactly what they do. They say Donald Trump will never get indicted. They'll never get indicted. Then he gets
Yep.
indicted. Then they say he'll never go to court. And then he goes to court and they say he'll never get convicted. And then when he gets convicted, they'll say he never goes to jail. I'm tired of that bullshit. That is fatalistic. That is just fucking stupid. And that is pure emotion. And when you make decisions on pure emotion, important decisions, you're going to make the wrong fucking choice. You're fucking with your own head in that situation. That's why, I tell people step back, take the emotion out of it, just look at the facts. I mean, the facts are Republicans can't win a presidential election unless they have a unified party, and they don't. So they can't win. It's as simple as that. They can't win if they take credit for overturning Roe v. Wade when 75% of the people support Roe v. Wade. You can't win an election when those two things happen. I mean, over and above all the other bullshit. I just don't even know how I can listen to people continually say this shit. It's just absolutely stupid. I'm glad they do. You know why? Because they look at it with emotions or they're lying and they'll tell you there's going to be a red wave in 2022. And I tell you, the facts don't bear that out. And then when there is no red wave, I look like a fucking genius, even though I didn't know anything other than the facts.
Well, I've seen it on CNN. This poster, he's on there saying that abortion's not going to help. Oops, sorry, dropped my phone. Abortion's not going to help Biden. I mean, it's like, well, how the
How
hell can
does
it
it
not help
not?
Biden?
Yeah, that's
Yeah, and
silly.
it's like it's not gonna. It's definitely not gonna help Trump because Trump was out there saying, I don't know if it was last night or tonight in Texas or Minnesota, saying that, oh, the Democrats win, they're going to restore Roe versus Wade, and I think Biden took that and used it as a campaign. Yep, there you go.
How could you say
And
that abortion won't help them when we've got
yep,
these ruby red states that tried to outlaw it and they put it on the ballot and they lose?
yep.
Of course, it's going to help Joe Biden. It can't help. We've seen it already help the Democrats already
Yep.
in
Yeah,
2022 and everything else.
there's been seats what in Alabama that flipped because of it. I mean,
Yeah.
it's come on. The I want to and I like and I like to tell kind of those people out there that are kind of kind of freaking out. Probably about back when Romney lost to Obama, and I think this ties back to when I was still voting Republican, and of course when Obama won, I never really disliked Obama. I didn't vote for him because I was still drinking the Kool Aid, I guess, so to speak. I was young and
Right.
dumb, and there was a when Romney lost, they were talking about that, especially like in Texas, how well the demographics and like what you've been saying, the younger people they're going to vote more Democrat.
Yeah.
It's just the Republicans are for the rich, blah blah blah. And this may be the last. Romney may be the last, hope for what happened with the Republicans or whatever.
Right.
And I think that's why they grabbed so hard onto Donald Trump is because Donald Trump is that guy that they wanted that stood up to him that was they was Teflon, doesn't give up. I mean, the guy is anything, he is persistent. I give him that. The fucker don't give up. I mean, he files more appeals than I've ever seen in my life. But there's nobody else like him. There's nobody in the wings with Trump. When Trump goes down, I think you'll still have that MAGA movement, but it won't be as organized. And you'll
No.
just Trump is the charismatic part to where he's got a lot of people fooled, and those people aren't probably coming back. A lot of them have left him that you see a lot of them in 2020 that vote for him are going to.
Right.
So, but I think Trump's their last hope, and I think that's why. And honestly, growing up in a Republican household, I knew that Christian that with that kicker that from the
Butker.
Chiefs, people are like, well, how can somebody believe that? Well, I can guarantee you, coming from that kind of upbringing, but that's how he was raised. He
Oh,
honestly
absolutely.
believes that women should, be in the kitchen. They should, their degree means nothing. I thought that way for a while, honestly. I was a little bit more liberal. I never thought a woman could be a preacher because supposedly somewhere in the Bible it said that. But it's like I mean, you still have that in this country, and it's still out there because that's how people are raised. It's that Christian nationalism. And honestly, if they had it their way, they wouldn't make the rest of us that way.
Well,
When Trump talks about deporting people, he wants to deport people that don't believe in his religion either.
right. Well, one of the problems with this Butker guy, and I don't talk about him much because he's nothing more than a football player, and who gives a fuck what he thinks? I mean, I like football, but I don't care what they fucking believe politically.
Yeah,
My experience with athletes, and I've known a lot of athletes, pro athletes and amateur athletes. Um, some of them aren't too bright. Some of them are very bright, but none of them are engaged in politics or know anything about politics. So I don't really care what they think. The thing about Butker, though, is that it's all hypocritical. It's absolutely hypocritical. He says what he says about women, yet his mother is a PhD of physiology or whatever. She's a big time doctor and she works. So how can he say that when his own mother is just the opposite of what he's proclaiming?
well, he could have been influenced by his father and his side. That that happens too. So maybe I just pick on her.
Well,
I don't know much about it, like you said.
his father didn't do a very good job of straightening out mom, though. Making her a housewife.
Does any man have that option, Mike?
No, no,
I
no.
did. I did. It is kind of funny though to watch, Laura Ingraham and the people of just dribble or whatever she said, the ball, or when Colin Kaepernick tried to like do his protest quietly and not raise a ruckus like this, he was called out. All of a sudden they're for athletes having an opinion.
Yeah, yeah. It's the whole Butker thing. That's one of those things I never really talked about because I think it's inconsequential. With all the things that we have going on in this country, a
Yep.
president that's essentially committed treason who's on trial, uh, a party that's done everything they can to destroy democracy and do nothing for the people of this country. Somebody like Butker is a pimple on the ass of this country. Nobody fucking cares. He's not going to get fired because he's too good a kicker. It's football. I mean, the NFL doesn't even fucking pay taxes, let alone cow to public opinion. They ain't gonna fucking change a thing.
It's kind of like when you have a transgender person, promoting a beer. Oh my God, what have we done with our morals? It's just, I think the Republicans and a lot of that stuff, they want these culture wars because they don't really stand for anything. The rest of us, I mean, most of the people are, they're for abortion. Most of the people are, they're for, people paying their fair share of taxes. I mean, they're forgetting, I mean, you have these Republicans that are like going after Biden for helping help these kids with these financial burdens, even though they do those PPP loans,
Right.
Or people they want to repeal the $35 insulin. I mean, insulin's been around forever. It should be cheaper than that.
Right.
And it's like the $8 the credit card fee, the junk fees that Biden, they're suing him over that. Right. I mean, how does any of that stuff when they're suing help the American people? It doesn't. Well, so it's like over here, yeah, none of it serves the American people.
It has nothing to do with the topic or what it does or what it doesn't do. It has to be the whole strategy is whatever the Democrats want to do, we need to shut it down. And in the long run, that means we don't get the service and the help that we're entitled to because we pay those people to serve us. Republicans are totally against doing their fucking job, so they should be kicked out of their jobs. Up until the time you start working for us, you don't belong here because you don't understand the job and you're not willing to do what you're supposed to do. And that should be enough reason not to vote for the motherfuckers.
Well, I mean, it's like I talk to people now, and they're Republican, and I say, well, how do you feel like about working to 70? And they're like my age, about 18 years away. And it's like, well, I don't want to do that. I go, well, you keep voting Republican, you might do that because they want to increase the Social Security. They want to do away with it. If not that, increase the age to 70.
Right.
I mean, it's already 62, 65, and you get penalties for whatever.
It's already 67.
67.
It was 62. They bumped it to 65, and then they bumped it to 67. I think we've done enough of that shit.
Oh shit! I haven't been paying attention. So, well, I guess I'll be working for at least another 15 years.
Yeah.
But it's like people vote against their own interest, and it's the damn thing about I have some cousins. She's retired, big MAGA, and boy, but they were talking about getting their Social Security, and I asked my dad that one time when he was retired, and talk about that Social Security. It's like, so you like FDR now? You didn't like it, having to pay into it, but goddamn, you're sure taking it now.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's Social Security. I mean, it's that good old socialism, that they love to. I mean, it's pathetic that the Republicans have stood in the way. I mean, goddamn, I remember when Hillary tried to, just talk about, helping out the medicine back in the 90s. I mean, they have vilified that woman for everything. And honestly, there'd probably be a lot more people alive in the world if she would have got that passed because,
right.
I mean, shit, the majority of bankruptcies are because you can't afford to pay for your medical bills.
Well, I want to say something because I hear this all the time. I hear young people saying, yeah, Social Security, I'll never get it. I'll never get Social Security. It'll go by the wayside. Let me tell you something. I'm 64 years old. When I was in my 20s, they were saying the same thing. I was saying the same thing. I was convinced that I would never get Social Security. Here we are 40 years later. I'm getting Social Security. Now the thing about it is that um, that the idea that anybody could cut Social Security and not just cause a fucking revolution. I mean, you see what
Yep.
happens when they overturn Roe v. Wade. That that deals with half the country, maybe 75% of the people that support it. Social Security affects everybody. That's going to put elderly people in poverty and make them homeless. If you think anybody's really going to pull that trigger, what they're doing with Social Security is talking the talk, kind of what they did with abortion. They never wanted to catch the bus, but they got cocky and they caught the bus with abortion, and now they're paying the price for it, and they'll realize the price they pay in November. But as long as people are paying into Social Security will be there. Uh, that people will fight to the death for that. It's just too impactful in this country. It will not only hurt elderly people, but it'll destroy the economy. So they ain't gonna fucking do that. You know, they can talk the talk, but they ain't never gonna do it.
Well, if they would have a tax to where everybody would pay their fair share,
Yeah,
not just let the rich get away with it. I mean, they talk about, it's Social Security is becoming, getting broke. Well, yeah, because it's funding those damn tax cuts that that they give the rich people. And I asked a friend of mine that's big, he's Republican and stuff, and I told him about that. How didn't Biden pass that thing to where those corporations had to start fighting? And I think the Republicans tried to overturn that. They started paying their fair share of taxes. I go, you're okay with like Amazon or talk about the NFL not paying taxes, but they make all this money. I mean, you think, I mean, and when you hear that, they get these like, well, that's socialism and that'll cause businesses to leave and stuff. It's like, please, I mean, if that causes them business to leave, well, there's another business that'll take its place. I mean, yeah, you give them tax breaks. I mean, that always, that's a Democrat and Republican thing, but for companies like not to pay taxes at all, look at NBC. I don't believe they pay taxes, but they have a MSNBC, and I like MSNBC, but it's like a church. You get a church, and a
right.
church starts talking about how Trump's getting prosecuted. Well, those fuckers should pay taxes.
They should
I
pay.
mean, if
Everybody
they
should.
should pay taxes. Yo, I
If
agree.
um, yeah, the thing about it is they will always say this. Well, we make them pay taxes, they'll leave the country. Fucking leave. What better
Yep.
place are you going to be? Your audience, your customers are here. As it is, we've got a lot of stuff overseas already, and it isn't because of the Democrats, it's because of the Republicans. It's not even about taxes, it's trying to produce shit cheaper. Um,
Yep.
at some
I
point,
think some company.
if you go to a restaurant, just a little dive bar, and you buy a hamburger for 12 bucks, okay? Or you can go to a fancy place and pay 25 bucks for a hamburger. The hamburger is the same value, but you got to pay for the accoutrements. And that's just the way it is. You don't want to be in America, then go fucking someplace else. Go down to Mexico. Let's see how this works for you. Let's see if you
Yep.
still make money. Yeah, you can save money on payroll and shit like that, but you still got to cater to the people in this country. I think that's just a scam excuse, much like what they told us about trickle down. They made some
Yep.
bullshit up and they kept saying it over and over until people believe it. And in fact, it's just bullshit.
Well, I think trickle down has been proven wrong over the years, but also all those bailouts that those companies that they were supposed to invest in the company, and what did they do? They didn't. They was it the when the when was it Bush that took when Obama took over for Bush and all that money they gave to put in there and they gave to those businesses and those businesses ended up didn't spend it on their employees or they ended up paying like off their debt or something like that. That that tells you right there that the company's not going to take care of they're going to take care of number one first. They're not going to take care of their employees. They're not going to take care of this other shit. So,
Well,
I mean, why do they get taxed?
trickle down would work if big corporations did what they
Exactly.
were supposed to do, but they don't. They
Yep.
basically waffle stomped their own shit into the drain and clogged all the holes. So
Yep.
the money doesn't trickle down. If it truly trickled down, I still think it's a bad idea, but it would be better if people got paid more, if they did more research, if they did more expansion to their business, but it doesn't do it. It goes into the pockets of the big people with the big money and it doesn't trickle down. And it's the same with all the other shit about people leaving the country if they're taxed fairly. You don't think they're going to get fucking taxed in these other countries? Probably worse.
Well, hell, you try to go to China now. China's like, look what they did to like Hong Kong. They told Hong Kong they would be open and let them be free. Shit ain't happening no more.
No.
Now go to China, go to Russia, and I don't know. It's just a lot of, and yeah, I think it's like when they did those bailouts, or there was something that they did to where the money was given to these businesses for them to pay or to invest to get, but all they did is hoard and they paid out the executive bonuses. I mean, it's anything to fuck the customer or fuck the employee, because I mean I've seen it too, to where these companies, I mean, I've seen a lot of stuff with the younger generation. You see it on TikTok a lot, where they don't take a lot of shit. Like, they have options. They have options to go work somewhere else.
Right.
They have options to do things to where, like like me, I'm not going to leave my job. I'm closer to retirement than I was before. But people don't look at that anymore, and they have a thing where they can't hire people. Well, they got to start treating people better, because I mean, I think during the pandemic, I think that exposed a lot of companies that were just like, well, fuck you, you're gone, or what. I mean, I saw a lot of that, to where a lot of people. I'm like, and I don't know how they say people don't work. I mean, I don't know how the hell they're living, because hell, I'm working, and I'm still trying to live. So it's like, people just, I mean, you got to get back to a place where you're not just a number anymore. And that may be a day gone, but I think the younger generation is not going to put up with it. That's why you have so many openings, that people just don't put up with this shit anymore.
Well,
Maybe it's a change.
I think we're at a kind of a pivot point, because the young people will be taking over as the majority of the folks that are voting. Um, the Republicans are going to take a shit in 2024, and it's going to be worse in 2028 because there's more young people. And if Joe Biden does the job and gets some things done in the 4 years, or at least 2 years, they're going to be hard pressed for the Republicans to reimagine themselves and be a factor in the upcoming elections. But because we've got these young people coming in, I think we're going to see dramatic changes in the way politics works and the way our industry works, because they aren't going to take the shit that baby boomers and Gen Xers took up to this point. They've got a different perspective on it, and people are going to have to fucking change, or they're not going to be able to do business. It's as simple as that.
I believe you're right on that, because here in pretty red, San Antonio is a pretty blue, but the area it can be, there's a lot of red. But we had a local school district that had I guess they had elections a couple weeks ago, and I guess people have been paying attention to kind of the kind of the craziness going on, because there was somebody involved that I guess that they were on TV, and they were arrested for like cussing out an Uber driver. Well, all the conservatives, i.e. MAGA, they lost. And I think even people that are, maybe conservative minds, they see enough of dysfunction going on, they're going to vote them out. So I think that's going against the Republicans too, because I mean, you look at even the media. I mean, there's like no question that we're going to win the House.
Yeah.
I mean, the Senate is always, gerrymandered wrong and whatever. But I mean, maybe Texas is starting to see stuff, because I know people aren't happy with Greg Abbott. A lot of Republicans I talk to aren't happy about the school voucher system. And the stupidest thing about the school voucher system is that, yeah, they're going to give them like what, $5,000 to $8,000. but all the public schools are going to do is just raise their rates. It's going to be, it's like those Trump supporters. They're not welcome at Mar-a-Lago. You think, an average poor person is going to want to be at a charter school or a private school? They're not going to want those kind of people there. I mean, that's the
No.
way they look down upon it. So they have a lot of people that are against vouchers down here, and Abbott's run against it. I saw a commercial in my district where this guy, he's endorsed by Trump, but his opponent is running an ad saying, no, he's endorsed by Beto. And this is a guy that got Trump's what do you call it, endorsement. And it's like this guy is saying, well, no, he's funded by Beto, and it's like Beto and Trump, because you have them down here, and only in Texas, probably, or Florida, you'll see somebody probably to be endorsed by Trump, and I just don't know how much he's charging them to do that, though.
Yeah, it's, people always talk about the Senate. I don't think the Senate's going to stay with the Democrats because of the numbers and all this stuff. Well, let's look at the facts. First of all, you've got Arizona. You've got Gallego and Carrie Lake. Gallego's going to beat her. There's no question about that. And while Sinema was technically a Democrat, with Gallego in there, it'll be a legitimate Democrat in the seat. So that's almost like flipping a seat. In Texas, you've got the situation with Ted Cruz. He's in real trouble right now. That seat could get flipped. And it's not even so much about Republican and Democrat. It's that Ted Cruz is just a vile fuck, and people are tired of his shit.
He's actually trying to recruit Democrats. There's a story going on.
Oh, good luck with that.
He's trying to recruit Democrats. But I think what people are kind of freaked out about in the Senate is that, you have the guy from West Virginia, Manchin, retiring.
Yeah.
That's probably going to go to a Republican. That's red with West Virginia. But now you have Larry Hogan running in Maryland, that is a popular Republican, was a popular governor. He has been pro-choice, evidently. So I guess they're kind of freaked out about that. So and then again, you got Florida, that Rick Scott's, he could be in trouble.
Yeah.
With Ted Cruz. But I mean, for every West Virginia, there could be a Texas pickup. There could be another pickup or whatever. I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen with the Senate. If anything, it stays 50-50. But with Kamala doing that one, but I would like to see a gain of 2 or 3. That would be great. Or maybe 2 if we lose West Virginia. But Manchin and Sinema, they were in for their own benefit. They weren't in for the country.
Yeah. Well, people told me in 2022 that we won't get the Senate, and we did. People look at history, and they look at we're in uncharted territory right now. We've never seen times like this. And I personally think, in spite of what media says, we are in for an absolute fucking disaster for Republicans in 2024. That doesn't mean they're going to lose every race, but the idea that Donald Trump might endorse some people, well, how did that go in 2022? Maybe he had one person that he endorsed that actually won. I don't know why people want his endorsement, because it doesn't bode well for them.
Yeah, and I think also too, with all those Haley voters, I think a lot of them won't vote, and that'll hurt Republicans down ballot. But what the Republican Party is now, that they have Donald Trump's daughter-in-law running it, they're bleeding money. They have no money,
right?
And he's actually charging people that that actually use his name. They want that. I mean, Rick Wilson said, he wrote a book, said everything Trump touches dies. And if the GOP dies, I mean, that'll be, if the GOP dies and there's something that comes better out of the ashes, that will be the best thing Trump's ever done.
Yeah, that's true.
If he kills, and that you're talking from somebody that used to be one, that, when you have a man, I say that, that said, he was saying, didn't he say last night or something, he's done more for African Americans than any other president in history? It's I think Abraham Lincoln may have
I think he might have a leg up there, because Donald Trump just says shit.
And say what you want to about Reagan, say what you want to about George W. Bush. They actually believed in, amnesty for illegal, okay, I'd say that word, migrants,
Right.
people, they actually had a path to do that because, and in Reagan, you can say what you want to. Yeah, he did a lot of shit wrong, but he was never dead with the Soviets.
Right.
I mean, my God. These people just, Vladimir Putin is fine now, but, they hate China, but they love Putin. And it's just like, you realize that they're kind of the same thing, right?
Reagan was a fuck,
Yeah, I
but he
know.
can't. But he can't even compare to Donald Trump. I mean, it's an unfair comparison. It's like comparing a kindergarten teacher to fucking Charles Manson.
Yeah,
I mean, the guy could be, or put it this way, it could be like a drunk driver who killed somebody in a manslaughter situation next to Charles Manson. He's bad, but he's nowhere near it. You can compare anybody to Donald Trump, and nobody comes close to him. He is an absolute piece of shit. And if that's all he was, I could deal with it. But over and above that, in the process, he's tried to destroy this country, overturn democracy, and there's just no going back. He needs to go away, literally, in some prison cell and be quieted for as long as he continues to live.
yeah, but we also need to realize too, what you've said this too, that we need to hold the Democrats responsible
Yeah,
because Reagan gets a
absolutely.
lot of shit. Reagan gets a lot of shit for the shit he pushed through, but he wouldn't have done it without the Congress. And who ran the Congress back then was the Democrats.
Yeah, yeah,
So, um, him and Tip O'Neill were big buddies. So, we when they win this, we can't let up on the gas, and I'm glad there's shows like yours around that'll do. We know the media will be hard on Joe because they already are, but I don't think Joe Biden's the problem. I think Joe Biden will be one that'll kick their ass to get shit done. But I think if anything, it relies on the Congress, and you have people on the left that get as kooky sometimes as people on the right. But but I think though when it comes down to it, I think another reason why you're right about the Biden winning big and the Republican Democrats winning big is because I think in the end the Bill Maher's, the David Axelrods, the James Carvilles, they're going to vote for Biden. But
yeah.
I don't think the Nikki Haley's or the Chris Christie's, they're not going to vote for Trump, and there's a lot of them like that. So I think you're 100% right on that.
In order for Donald Trump to win, he needs all Republican votes, and he doesn't have them. He just
And
doesn't
can I say
have them.
one thing?
Sure.
Can I say one thing? I know we're getting close to the end there. But when I hear somebody like, who's our former House guy that came out, Paul Ryan,
Yeah.
when they come out here and they say, well, I'm not going to vote for Trump, but I'm not going to vote for Biden either. I'm going to write in somebody's name. Fuck you. Just
Yeah.
stay home.
Yeah.
Get
You're in.
over yourself because you're making it about you. If
Yeah.
you ain't got the goddamn sense to vote for Biden, stay home.
Run yourself if you have the fucking
Yes.
courage.
Yeah, no shit. Trump ran your ass off. Come
Right.
on.
Exactly.
I just had to say that as being a former Republican. I just had to say for somebody that used to support that shit, I ain't gonna write nobody's damn name in there. You're wasting your vote. You're wasting the poll people's time. Get over yourself.
Yeah.
You're making it about
Exactly.
you.
Yeah. Exactly. Well, Jace, we're going to wrap things up for the Rational Boomer podcast. I want to thank you for taking the time with us here today. Jace is from Texas. He's a listener. He's on frequently. We're always glad to have him on. It's always a pleasure and gives us a Southwestern perspective of what's going on in this fucked up country at this point.
Yeah, yeah. I appreciate you having me, Mike, and let me have my little rant there at the end.
No problem. No problem. For those of you listening, I want to thank you for taking the time to do that. I hope you have a great day, great Sunday, and we'll talk to you again tomorrow.